The first thing I want to talk about is foot placement. While not as crucial as on squat or deadlift, it still is important on bench press. It forms your connection to the ground and your base. I prefer to keep a flat foot on the ground. This ensures I get the best connection possible. I also like to keep my back tight and arched. To do that, I like to keep my feet back as far as I can while still keeping them flat. For everyone, this is going to be a different position, but you want to put them back, but not so far back that you can't keep them flat on the floor. The next thing I want to talk about is back position. As you lie down on the bench, you want to position your back in the appropriate position. For everyone, this may be a little bit different, but essentially what you want is to have your back in a position where you're not so far away from the bar that it becomes difficult to unrack, but you're not so far under it that you're likely to hit the pegs when you're pressing. I prefer to put the bar right around forehead height, and this will put my back connection with the bench just below where the bar sits on the rack. So now that we're in the proper position, I want to talk about back arch. Now this tends to be a little bit of a controversial topic, especially amongst bodybuilders. Many bodybuilders don't think they should arch. They think that an arch is just a powerlifting move. But arching your lower back will help keep your spine neutral and protect it while you're pressing. It will also ensure your overall back can stay tighter. Now, if you're not concerned about powerlifting, maybe you don't need to arch as much as powerlifters, but you should still keep a slight arch in your lower back. If you're a powerlifter, then you want to arch as much as you possibly can to minimize the distance the bar has to travel. The next thing I want to talk about is gripping the bar. You want to grab it tightly and with authority. This is going to activate your central nervous system and get you ready and cue you to stay tight. You want to put the bar as far down in your hand as you possibly can. If you hold the bar out in your fingers, it is more likely to cause your wrist to roll back. This means you are no longer pressing with optimal force. A straight wrist will be the most optimal way to press. So you want to hold the bar as low in your hands as you can. Grip width is going to be very individual depending on your arm length. People with longer arms will probably need to grip wider. People with shorter arms can grip more narrow. But I don't like exaggerated grips in either direction. Most people are going to be around the rings or just a few inches inside the rings. I also don't recommend a false or thumbless grip. While they may feel better, they are simply more dangerous. I've heard numerous stories of people dropping bars on their chest because they used a thumbless grip. Wrap your thumb around the bar and bench press more safely. The next thing I want to talk about is squeezing your shoulder blades together. Squeezing your shoulder blades together will allow you to stay tighter. It also protects the shoulders. What I mean by squeezing shoulder blades together is think about if you had a grape in between your shoulder blades. You want to squeeze so tight that you crush that grape. Just like on squat, we want to breathe to create the maximum amount of intraperitoneal pressure so we can brace more effectively and move more weight. Before you begin the movement, you want to take in a deep breath, unrack the bar, blow that breath out, and take in another new deep breath before you start your first rep. Then you want to hold it and blow out forcefully as you lock out the weight. This will enable you to use more weight more effectively. One step that gets overlooked is unracking the bar. Just like on squat, we want to do this as efficiently as possible and not waste energy. The way I like to think about unracking the bar is not to lift the bar off the uprights, but I want to think about driving my back against the bench so hard that the bar just comes off. You want to take a deep breath, brace, drive your shoulder blades against the bench, and then slowly and in a controlled fashion, pull the bar off the uprights. Now that we've gone through a proper setup on bench press, let's talk execution. After you've unracked the bar and you're ready to start your first rep, you want to take in a big breath and brace your abdominal wall just like you would on squat or deadlift. Once you're braced, to initiate lowering the bar, think about trying to bend the bar into a U. This will enable the bar to lower naturally in a good position with your elbows tucked. By thinking about bending the bar, you're going to naturally engage your lats and tuck your elbows. We don't want to flare our elbows excessively on bench press. Tucking your elbows ensures that you'll engage your lats and press in a more safe and efficient manner. Another cue that may work is to protect your armpits. Where you touch the bar on your body is very important and is going to be very different depending on how long your arms are and where you grip. One of the most important things for an efficient bench press is to keep your forearm at 90 degrees to the ground. If it moves in either direction, you're going to be losing energy transfer as you press up with the bar. Somebody who has long arms and grips narrow is going to have to touch very low on their body. If somebody has very short arms and grip very wide, they could touch very high and still keep their forearm at 90 degrees to the ground. But as we discussed, I don't recommend extreme grips in either direction. For most people, they're going to hit anywhere from their top ab to their nipple line. Once you've touched the bar to your chest, you want to initiate the upward movement by tightening your glutes and driving your legs in the ground. This may seem like a strange cue, but just like on squat and deadlift, using leg drive is going to enable you to use more weight and stay tighter. Now on bench press, because our feet are not directly under the bar, it's not as important as it is on squats and deadlifts, but we're still trying to get every little bit of efficiency that we can out of our movement. As you start to press up, you want to think about throwing the bar back as you start the lockout process. Remember, we're pressing the bar in an upside down J path. Ideally, we'd have a completely straight bar path, but with most people on bench press, that's not going to be possible. If they do, the bar ends up too far away from you as you lock out and creates extra torque on your shoulders. Now that we've talked about how to do a proper bench press, let's talk about some of the most common mistakes I see when people do the movement. Probably the most common mistake I see is people bouncing the bar off their chest. Not only is this dangerous because of the force you create on your sternum, but it's almost impossible to stay tight and controlled when you're bouncing the bar off your chest. And if you're bouncing it, are you really moving the weight? Another mistake is people don't breathe properly and brace properly. If you're not taking in a big breath before you start and bracing your abdominal wall correctly, it's going to be less safe and you're not going to be able to stay as tight and use as much weight. Another one of the most common mistakes I see is people flaring their elbows. Many people flare their elbows out because they believe this will lead to more chest recruitment. And even if it does, it's still not worth the danger. This was how I tore my pec 7 years ago, by using too wide of a grip and flaring my elbows out. It also means you're not going to be able to keep your lats tight, and it's going to lead to less efficiency in the movement. Another big mistake I see is rolling your shoulders forward. This tends to go hand in hand with flaring elbows out too wide. Many people tend to roll their shoulders forward as they finish the movement, but this is going to make you stay less tight and has a greater chance of leading to some sort of shoulder injury over the course of your lifting career. Another mistake that coincides with flaring elbows and rolling shoulders is unlocking your shoulder blades. Many people will unlock their shoulder blades as they finish a bench press because they feel it will enable them to lock out more weight. But that's not the case. It will cause you to lose tightness and increase the possibility of injury. Another mistake I see is people not keeping their feet planted. They have what I call floppy feet. It usually coincides with all the other cues we've talked about of not staying tight. Keep your feet planted to the floor. This will enable you to stay tighter and press more effectively. Now you have the tools to bench press effectively and safely. Remember, lifting weights is a skill, just like any other sport, and the more times you do it, the better you will get at that skill. Start out with light weight, work on your form, build it up over time. Now I know it's a lot to remember. There's a lot of cues when it comes to bench press, so go back and watch this video over and over until it makes more sense. You may pick up more things every time you watch it. Also, I've broken everything down in detail in this article at bodybuilding.com. For more articles and videos from me and other great contributors, keep coming back to bodybuilding.com.